The story begins in a quiet town where everyone knew each other's secrets, but one secret had remained hidden for 15 long years. A secret that could shatter hearts and heal them at the same time. It all started in the big white mansion at the edge of the town, the house of Chief Odigon, a wealthy businessman with everything except peace. Chief Odigon was a proud man. He believed money could solve anything. His only son, Daniel, was his pride and joy, a brilliant boy with dreams of becoming a doctor. But tragedy struck one rainy night when Chief Odigon's company went bankrupt. His friends turned their backs on him, cars were seized, and soon the mansion felt cold and empty. Amid the chaos, one person stayed, the housemaid Aisha. She was a quiet, dark-skinned young woman with kind eyes and a calm smile. Chief had hired her 2 years earlier from the village, never imagining she would one day carry his family's future on her back. When the company collapsed, salaries stopped, the drivers left. The cooks disappeared. But Aisha stayed. She swept the dusty floors and cooked whatever was left in the pantry, pretending not to notice the sadness in Daniel's eyes. One morning, Daniel came home from school looking pale. He held a brown envelope in his hand and said softly, "Papa, they said I can't sit for exams if I don't pay the school fees." Chief Odigon sighed deeply and looked away. He had sold almost everything to survive. "Give me some time, my son," he said, his voice trembling. "I will find a way." But weeks passed. The deadline came and went. Daniel's name was removed from the class list. He sat at home in silence, staring at his books. That night, Aisha overheard Chief Odigon praying in the living room, his voice breaking. "God, don't let my son's future end because of me." Aisha couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about the boy who always greeted her politely, who helped her carry buckets of water, who smiled even when his world was falling apart. The next morning, she made a decision that would change everything. She walked to the principal's office and said quietly, "Please, how much is Master Daniel's school fees?" The principal looked surprised. "You?" Aisha nodded, clutching her small handbag. Inside were all her savings, money she'd been keeping to rebuild her mother's leaking roof back in the village. "I will pay in 2 parts, she whispered. "Please don't tell anyone." The principal hesitated, but finally agreed. Aisha worked extra hours, cleaned neighbors' houses at night, and even washed clothes for strangers. Slowly, she gathered enough money to keep Daniel in school. Every term, she paid in secret. And each time Daniel thanked his father for finding the money, Chief Odigon would just nod, wondering which miracle had occurred. Years passed. Chief eventually found a small job, enough to survive but not enough to clear debts. Daniel excelled in school, became the best student in his class, and eventually got admitted to the university. When he got his admission letter, he ran home shouting, "Papa, I made it." Chief hugged him tightly, tears in his eyes. He whispered, "God never fails." Aisha smiled from the doorway, her hands still wet with soapy water. But when she turned to leave, her eyes glistened. She knew the truth, it wasn't God alone. It was her hands, her sleepless nights, her hidden sacrifice. Yet she said nothing. She promised herself she would never reveal the truth. But fate had other plans. Years passed and the world seemed to forget about people like Amara, but she never forgot the small boy whose school fees she paid in secret. She had no husband, no children, no one to call her own. Her only comfort was that her sacrifice might have changed someone's destiny. In the quiet nights, she would look up at the moon and whisper, "I hope he's doing well wherever he is." Life continued, harsh but bearable. Her hair turned grey, her steps slower, yet her spirit remained strong. She still worked as a maid, moving from house to house, city to city. Then one day, she got very sick. Her body became weak, her hands trembled, and the doctor said she needed surgery. But she had no money. The family she worked for decided to let her go. She packed her few clothes into an old nylon bag and left without a word. It rained heavily that day, soaking her wrapper as she sat under a shade near the bus park. She whispered, "So this is how it ends." But fate wasn't done with her yet. That same evening, A black SUV stopped nearby. A man in his early 30s stepped out, tall, well-dressed, with eyes that carried both confidence and warmth. He was searching for someone, a house help his mother once mentioned, named Amara. He had been looking for her for weeks. When his eyes fell on the weak woman sitting by the road, something in him stirred. "Mama. Amara," he called softly. "Do you remember me?" "It's me. Chike." Her heart almost stopped. Chike, the boy she once fed, clothed, and secretly helped to stay in school. From that day, he took care of her like his own mother. Every Sunday, he would visit with food, gifts, and laughter. But Amara always looked at him with a mixture of pride and guilt. Deep inside, she had kept one last secret, something she had never told anyone. A secret about why she paid his fees in the first place. And she knew that someday, he would have to know. The day came when the secret could no longer hide in Amara's heart. She had been feeling weak again, coughing at night, her strength fading slowly. Chike begged her to stay in the hospital, but she insisted on being at home, in the small house he built for her. One evening, as the harmattan breeze swept through the curtains, she called him to her bedside. "Chike," she said softly, "there's something I never told you." He frowned, holding her hand gently. "What is it, Mama Amara?" She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening. "Do you remember your mother?" He nodded. "Of course. She died when I was 5. Amara nodded slowly. "Yes, but what you didn't know is that your mother and I were from the same village. We grew up together, like sisters. She was the one who got me the job at your father's house. When she died, I made her a promise, that I would look after you no matter what it cost me. That promise became my life." Chike's eyes widened. "You mean, you knew my mother?" Amara smiled weakly. "Knew her. She was my best friend. We shared everything, even hunger. When she married your father, she told me, if anything ever happens to me, please don't let my child suffer. And when she died, I swore I would protect you as my own." Chike's throat tightened, tears flooding his eyes. "So all these years, all those sacrifices, it wasn't just kindness." Amara shook her head slowly. "It was love, Chike. The kind that never dies." He broke down, crying beside her, clutching her hand like a child again. "You gave me everything," he said. "Even when I didn't know who you truly were." She brushed his face gently. "You gave me something too, a reason to keep living when I had nothing." Her breathing grew slower. "Promise me, Chike," she whispered, "promise me you'll keep helping others the way I helped you. Don't let my story die." He nodded desperately. "I promise, Mama. I promise." A faint smile curved on her lips. "Then my soul can rest." Her hand went still in his, and just like that, the woman who gave her life to another's destiny took her last breath. Chike screamed her name, but it was too late. The house fell silent except for the wind outside. Days later, her funeral brought the whole village together. Everyone cried as Chike told her story, how a maid had secretly paid her boss's son's school fees, how she vanished, and how 15 years later he found her again. "She wasn't just a maid," he said in a shaking voice. "She was my guardian, my mother, my miracle." The crowd wept openly. Even strangers who had never met her wiped their eyes. After the burial, Chike kept his promise. He built a foundation in her name called the Amara Promise Foundation, giving scholarships to poor children across Nigeria. Every child who walked through those doors carried a story of hope. On the wall of the foundation was a large framed photo of Amara in her younger days, smiling, radiant, and strong. Beneath it were the words she had once said, "Love is not what you say, it's what you do in silence." Years later, reporters came from across Africa to interview Chike, now one of the most respected doctors in the continent. They asked him the secret behind his success. He smiled and said, "A maid who became a mother to me. She taught me that angels don't always have wings, sometimes, they wear aprons." The clip went viral, touching millions of hearts. So my friends, if you enjoyed the story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and always remember that kindness, gratitude, always find their way back to you.